Welcome to the Living Library of Resilience. I'm your host, Rhiannon Barry, self-taught visual artist, community-minded wellness program developer, and psychology student. I have a strong interest in art therapy methods and environmental psychology, and I develop and facilitate online and in-person programs. For a more in-depth experience of the programs and activities that I facilitate, please consider participating in a creative wellness online or in-person retreat. There is an ongoing intake for Change of Heart, which is a 4-week group session. It includes a complimentary one-to-one intake session, individual change plan, and 4 intimate group sessions including art making and self-reflection, sharing exercises, homework, and a one-to-one follow-up session. Elements of Art Nature is a collaborative overnight retreat in Killarney, Ontario. It takes place between May 17th and 20th. Tickets are on sale until March 10th. Why is Calm So Hard is a 6-week individual session. It's a guided curriculum with creative exercises to explore your habits and to create real change. Share as much or as little as you'd like to in each session, and each activity is developed using rec-based therapeutic principles and creative expression to help you reflect and create a new plan. Let the act of creating assist you in expressing yourself and revealing new pathways in your life. Schedule a complimentary intake meeting. The Creative Conversations is a journey involving discussions to process resiliency, a conversation of discovery and healing, pathfinding tips and storytelling for creatives, and talks among friends to open ears and eyes. We hope to find many new stories to share through the Living Library, and if you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. Today, our guest is Sam. Wait, so let me get this straight. Serendipitously noticing a quote tattooed on the arm of our podcast co-host Carly, who like Sam participates in dialectic behavioral therapy to treat borderline personality disorder, Sam was excited to share her love of the quote, "No day but today" resonates. It's from the theatrical play Rent, and it means there's only us, there's only now, and is a reminder of the importance of mindfulness in everyday living and the now moment. She is healed, healing, and uncovering her resilience day to day and moment to moment. She is 1 year and 40 plus days sober, happy and engaged, planning a wedding. Sam reflects on the unpacking and the reframing that she's been doing. She also credits local art-based community programs and those supportive spaces that allow her to discover and express her art and emotions. With a singing background and an education in musical theater, the opportunity to participate in a Nest Artist Residency, a structured 6-month program, allowed her to deepen her relationship with her audience and the artistic community. Told through song and storytelling, Sam's one-woman show showcased in 2021. It was about her mental health, addiction, and recovery journey. Her daily writing practice also helps ease the noise in her mind. The noise of everyday life is only exacerbated by anxiety, depression, and other mental illnesses, such as borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is characterized by frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, self-harm including alcohol and drug use, an unstable self-image, feelings of emptiness, challenging social interactions, trouble maintaining relationships, impulsivity, and severe emotional instabilities or anger. The DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for borderline personality disorder contains additional information about this diagnosis. Recently, Sam launched Sam Out Loud, a support service offering resource navigation and lived experience advocacy for those who are curious, ready to, or are receiving mental health and addiction support, but are finding the process isolating or overwhelming.
You like Rent?
I was in Rent. I love Rent.
Okay.
I was just
I don't even need to tell you backstory then.
Okay, tell me.
I got this in New York City, in the East Village, Manhattan's oldest tattoo parlor.
Oh my god.
I had planned on getting a tattoo when I went with my grandma, and because her and I just drove there, which terrified me so badly.
Oh my
The
God.
thought about driving there, and I knew I wanted to get it, but I didn't know where. I just thought when I find a tattoo parlor, I'll get it.
Yeah.
Second to last day, still hadn't found one, and I wanted to find the bar, Balzac's, which is where they filmed the La Vie Boheme scene in the movie, right?
Yeah.
That bar actually exists.
Yeah.
So I took her through East Village to try and find this bar, which is where the play was written, was in the East Village.
Yeah.
And right as we're about to leave, there's Manhattan's oldest tattoo parlor. So I got it right in the center of
Like where it all.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I also stopped smoking on that trip. So
Sweet.
just for the listeners, what does the tattoo say?
no day but today. No day but the one regret. I can't see it.
Oh yeah, I guess not.
I always forget I have it. Oh.
What does that mean to you, Sam?
Oh, well, the music first of all from Rent is amazing, and it like moves you so much. But No Day But Today is like, oh, there's this beautiful part in the show where it's just like, there's only us, there's only now, there's only this. It's like, it's true. It's literally about the present. Like, there is only this. Like, everything before it doesn't matter because it's already happened, and everything that's coming also hasn't happened. So there's no sense in putting your attention or your energy that far ahead. Like, there is literally only, you can only be here in this moment right now as you are. That's it. And then this moment, and it's going to pass, and then there's going to be another one. And that's it. You just focus on that.
So lots of mindfulness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good old
That's cool.
mindfulness.
Yeah, so you guys have a lot in common, and I want to get to that a little bit later. But first, I just wanted to talk to you about when we asked you if your life were a novel, what would the title be? And you answered, wait, so let me get this straight. And enter. Or, capitalized, subject to change.
Yes.
So now that you're sitting here today, is there one that you favor over the other if you were to write a novel about yourself?
I think I like the first one better. Wait, so what did I say? What is it called? Let me get this straight.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good title.
Thank you. The thought behind it was like, I'm a year and 40-something days sober from alcohol today.
Congrats.
And
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so a lot of the last year or so has been a lot of unlearning for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I picked Wait, So Let Me Get This Straight is because literally it's like everything I ever knew, I started to question and change and redefine and decide that I was going to do it my own way. Like, this is as simple as like stuff like as simple as housework, or like big things like choosing not to drink in a culture that really values drinking. Like big things, little things, anything in between, how I spend my time, how I value my energy.
Yeah, so isn't it funny how like when you start working on yourself, how something clicks like that, and you start realizing the way I've been doing things, I've been holding on to that far too, like with too tight of a grasp.
Yeah.
And things just start opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens. It's amazing.
But you have to get to that point.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. So I always kind of say there's a little bit of like maturity and age too involved in the sort of awakening that people experience. And maybe you'll have like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 awakenings, right? But I always say it's like you get past your 20s and then everybody's sort of like, wait a second, right? And it's all sorts of come together with a little bit of maturity too.
Yeah, for sure. It's really that like starting to question, like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, what am I doing with my life?
And who am I? And where do I want to be in 5-10 years? Like, how do I actually want to feel? Like, What am I doing right
pause.
now that's like putting me in that direction? What am I doing right now that's
Mm-hmm.
not putting me in that direction? And what can I let go of? And but like the questioning, like I don't know about you or our listeners, but I wasn't raised to question anything, to be curious about anything. It was just like, this is the way you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You follow these sets of rules. You stay on the straight line. This is how it's done.
Yeah.
Is that like the parenting?
Yeah.
Did it involve religious commendation or?
I was raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we did go to church like every Sunday, which, I mean, I have all kinds of thoughts about that now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've started to question all kinds of things. Yeah, and I mean, it was an innocent, like, they came by it honestly. It wasn't like...
Yeah, parenting rules were different. I was talking about that with my mother last night, actually, about how, like, the things that people thought were right, like disciplining your child or letting them cry themselves to sleep, we now know, you know, as an older person, like my siblings are having children. I have one sister who her parenting style is so soft and sweet with her children, right? So what we used to take as normal parenting, even good parenting, now we don't look at the same way. And it's no fault of theirs. It's just those were the times and the information that they had available.
Exactly. Yeah.
You really start to see that if you dive into any sort of inner child healing. You really start to see how those things that maybe your parents didn't realize, like they were doing the best they could, but those things, certain things can really impact that child that will affect them later on in life, right? Like, I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts regarding inner child healing, and the one thing that does come up is the idea of letting children cry it out. Well, then you're learning that nobody, you know,
Responds to your needs.
To you. Yeah, and it's amazing how these things that happen in our childhood can manifest so clearly as an adult, but you don't see it when you're in it.
Yeah,
right?
and there's a lot of like empirical research on that now. There are a lot of people throwing around theories throughout like the 30s, 40s, 50s, and really doing like the lab work on it. So now we can get like meta-analysis of all sorts of studies, and you know, that's where a lot of like discussion about childhood, like inner child work and attachment theories come into play, right? And people, as mental health is being spoken about more and more, this is becoming common knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? People might not know all of the intricacies of it all, but it's common knowledge to know that there's a secure attachment style and there's an insecure attachment style. And, you know, maybe if you had this, then your parents didn't respond in this way, or you know, maybe this is why you're afraid to speak with authority figures, or maybe this is why you have a bad relationship with your parents. So it's becoming more clear to just like everybody, like the regular average person.
Yeah, because some of those attachment bonds don't form, right? And then so in infancy, in early infancy, if you just let the baby cry, I mean, I'm no expert and I'm not a parent and I'm not like a medical professional at all, but sometimes when like you let the baby just cry and cry and cry, like that infant does not know that the caregiver is coming or when they're coming or if they're ever going to come, and so it can create this lack of bond, which then creates like an anxious child before it's even one.
Yeah, and then you get
two.
into your adulthood and you have trouble keeping relationships, and then you kind of wonder why, and that's a piece of it. Right. They do find, though, there's also, like, as much as it's nurturing, it's also the environment. So you can have certain markers, and they say, oh, this is, like, similar markers to other people. So, like, there was one experiment, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty famous. But he went in, and this doctor went in and analyzed a bunch of prison inmates, and they all had the same marker. And then, you know, instead of like assuming that, oh, this marker means that you're going to be like a deviant, they went ahead and tested a bunch of other people in the normal population, including himself, and he happened to have that marker as well. And a lot of other people did. So then they looked at their upbringings, right? And so a lot of it has to do with, you might have something, it can stay pretty dormant if you're nurtured properly.
Yeah. I think that if you are somebody too who does start to look into that inner child healing, right? Going through the process. Like, I'll just speak for myself, right? All these issues that I had, never did I think this could come from something that happened before I was old enough to even recognize, right? But these things, like I was saying earlier, like these things are so prominent in my life. And no matter how hard you try, you can't fix it or grasp it. But then when you start to learn about how to heal that inner child, like, it's really incredible to see how much of a difference it can make.
Well, like just giving your child positive experiences, right? Knowing that they can trust you, or validating, instead of saying, like, you go into a child's room and they say that's scary, and you go, no, that's not scary, and you leave. Well, that clicks something inside the kid's head where they're going, and this comes to a commonality between the both of you, the borderline personality disorder. That's one of the like little components that have been studied, is that it leads the child to thinking, are my thoughts correct? Am I like delusional here? Are my thoughts wrong? Right? Yeah. So if you say, oh no, that tastes good, eat it. So it doesn't have to be malicious. It's just these little, if that's the parenting style, it's dismissive almost of, and now we actually, like I was saying, I see people treating their children like little adults. Like, yes, you have choices. Yeah. Yes, you're a person. Yeah. Right? Where before, maybe even just like our generation, we're just like, eat whatever's on your plate.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll be interesting to see the difference it really makes. Like,
it makes a big difference. Well, you have Marcus.
Yeah, and that definitely. So it's interesting in my situation because I became a parent of a 8-year-old, really, all of a sudden, and I was, how old was I? What was that, 10 years ago? I must have been
we were in school together.
Yeah, we were in school together.
We did a 10-month course in community service work.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So here I am, 24.
24.
I was 24 years old with an 8-year-old.
Oh, wow,
and
and so was I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had Mateo.
Yeah, and it really was interesting, the times even I found, and you'll probably find this too, like where like you catch yourself almost doing the things your parents did that you didn't agree with, and maybe and a lot of these things are probably what we were talking about that cause these traumas.
Yeah, and you do them.
Not to say my parents were, doing it on purpose, like you said, but doing what they know, and then you catch yourself. But the thing is, you're able to stop it from continuing, right? No, but it still almost comes out.
And I just want to say, like, before we go any further, it might sound like we're whining because we're picking at the little things, but I just want to say that in my past, I have experienced trauma, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to get all into it, but I just don't want the listeners to think that we're whining about things because we're talking about such small little pieces and parts, but they're important to discuss.
Oh, for sure.
Myself, I've had, I lived through childhood poverty, homelessness, a lot of, my father must have had a social disorder. I still can't put my finger on it. So, but there's more. Everybody has lives and issues and things that they've been through. But to me, these little pieces, it's important to discuss them because they're the micro traumas.
Absolutely.
And they mean something too.
And it's important to break them down so that other people can understand them too. Because it might resonate with something they went through or something that they can't maybe figure out for themselves, right? Yeah. So by opening the discussion and having conversations about it, it opens it up for other people to understand.
And also, that's a lot about what positive psychology is about. It's preventative and focusing on how we can make it better before it goes bad, right? So it's important.
Yeah.
It's just another way of dealing with things before they happen.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to talk about your music, Sam. When did you first start playing piano and singing?
That's a great question. So I started singing when I was 16. Although way like before that in grade 8, I was feeling really great one day. It was a Friday and they were like, oh, we need soloists for the upcoming Stations of the Cross. I went to French school, so none of this was in English. But and I was like feeling great. So I put out my hand and that was the first time I'd ever volunteered to sing anything. I don't know what came over me. I don't know. And then I got assigned a solo that I had to sing like 3 separate masses. Like, so because it was Stations of the Cross. So there's like, anyway. And so that was the first time I ever did anything singing-wise. My principal at the time was so encouraging and so sweet. And she was like, you actually, like, have something here. Like, you should do something about it. And I was like, but I was very, very shy and quiet as a kid. So it took me a little while until I actually, like, started taking lessons, which is what I did when I was 16. And then I sang at a couple things in high school. And then I went to Brock right out of high school for French and criminology, because I had no ideas, and my parents were like, go be a French teacher, and I was like, okay. Yeah. I didn't even get the teaching part. I just got the 3-year pass degree and got the heck out of there. And then I went to college for musical theater because I really wanted to keep doing music.
So you went back for what you really wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start working for theater? Like for Carousel, or did you work anywhere else before that?
So I performed. So I went to college, and then I moved to Ottawa, and I mean, it's a really long story. I worked in hotels for a while. A lot of our teachers who taught, because I went to school in Brockville, it's an hour away from Ottawa, so a lot of them came from Ottawa, so I figured, if I go to Ottawa instead of Toronto, I was like, I'm not ready for that competition. If I go to Ottawa, it's like a smaller theater community, and all our teachers came from there, so I'll already have like theater connections. Like, I'm not doing anything else with my life. I'll just move to Ottawa. So I moved to Ottawa with a friend from school, from college, and worked in hotels for a couple years. Auditioned for a handful of things, didn't get anything. Was like, that's just the way it is. Like, sometimes we just don't get things, right?
And how did you deal with that sort of rejection?
I think I had such low self-worth at the time that I was like, I get it. Like, I know.
It makes
like,
sense.
Yeah. And even now that I have self-worth, like, if I didn't get it, I would just see it as like, it just wasn't meant to be. There's going to be another door. It's going to open for something else. It's just not the path right now, you know? So I don't even know what your question was.
Well, I was just wondering how you dealt with the rejection of being rejected early on.
No, but the question before that, I feel.
Just like your journey to where you ended up in St. Catharines at Carousel Players.
Right, thank you. So then, I ended up moving back to Niagara. So I'm from Welland. I moved back to Niagara in 2014 after I'd lived in Ottawa for a little while. There were a lot of reasons why. One of the biggest reasons was that my grandfather passed away. And like, I was living in Ottawa, had like a very few friends, like was dealing with major mental health issues that I didn't know were major mental health issues at the time. I was just not well. And then so there were a lot of things going on there. I was so lonely. I was so depressed. And I already had I kind of was feeling pulled to come home anyway. And then when that happened, I was like, okay, I need to be here now. I need to be close to family. I need to put myself back together. I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. Like, because I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. And so I moved back home. And then I worked in the wine industry for a while. I worked at Canadian Tire Financial for a while doing finance. And then I finally got a job with O Canada A, performing. So I was performing there for a couple of years. That's where I met Brandon. I could talk about Brandon for a long time. He's amazing. And then while I was working at the theater, I think it was all at the same time, I got a job with Carousel Players doing outreach for them.
Yeah.
So it was
it was outreach because I was an outreach coordinator. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we met.
Yeah.
Outreaching to each other.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, for something or other, yeah. And then I worked there for a couple of years. Loved my life. Amazing team.
Yeah, you seemed happy there.
Oh, so happy. Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, Carousel doesn't have enough operating funding to keep me on a full-time basis. So it's just contract to contract. Like whenever they
Yeah.
have funding, they'll hire me and I'll
Grants
come in and do
and,
stuff. And then I
fundraising.
leave. And then sometimes they get funding for folks under 30 and
Yeah.
I'm over 30. So they can't hire me back to do the same thing. So they
And
have
that's
to
precarious, very precarious
Yeah.
work, which does a number on your head sometimes too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, it's hard. It's like when a show ends, like when you're in a musical and you're in a show and then, you know, you're all like assembled for this common goal, right? Where and it all comes to life and it's all beautiful and you have the best time ever making
And
it.
the curtain closes.
And then that's it. And then it closes and you're like, oh my gosh, who am I without this?
Yeah.
But not. You obviously survive.
Yeah, you survive.
Yeah.
I worked at a not-for-profit for 6.5 years and received 5 records of employment during that time.
Oh my gosh.
Now, my time off ranged from like 3 weeks to 6 weeks to 6 months, but I was always the precarious worker.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it was. It was difficult.
Yeah.
But I always worked other jobs in between, and that's where my art started to grow in those in-between periods.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's important.
That's how it goes, right? So you need those tough times.
I can kind of relate to that because in my field, I work in the auto industry, so I get laid off a lot. And it seems to be when I'm out of work, that's when I can focus on the bright side of it is that's when I can focus on the more creative, the creative things.
Like the projects you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm all about like, how do we figure out? And by we, I just mean me. Like I just mean like we as in, you know,
The team inside your head.
yeah, the team. Yeah, me and the team. Like figure out a way to like have our jobs and have our lives, but like also fit that in.
Yeah. And with COVID, wasn't there like a clean sweep happening all over the place though, to that sort of notion that, you know, it's more important to hold down this job and like a lot of people figured out how to live with less, right? And I see a lot of people opening up businesses and or just following their dreams finally, or going back to school and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Like I got laid off in May, and it is February now, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've just been birthing my career child.
Let's talk about your one-woman show.
Okay.
Yeah. That was last year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was during COVID.
It was during COVID. So I was part of the Nest residency with Suitcase and Point.
Yes.
So basically you had to pitch a project and apply and everything. And then my project was a one-woman show where I talk about my experience with mental illness and addiction. And I write my own music and then play it. I don't know what I was thinking.
How did it go, though? How did it go?
I mean, I felt amazing after.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I did the thing. But leading up to it, oh my gosh, I was a mess. Like, I was like overdoing it. I was doing too much. Like, I mean,
Overcompensating.
I struggle with balance. Like, I'll overdo it for a while and then crash, and then overdo it and crash, and we just keep riding the wave. And
Is that a symptom of
Yeah.
is it? Because
Yes. That's that extreme, right? That's the all or
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
about
Borderline.
balance. Yeah.
It's a symptom of so many other things, too, like other conditions as well.
Yeah.
So,
So it sounds like
it
you
went
stressed
well,
yourself
though.
out.
Oh, I definitely stressed
But you're
myself out.
relieved just like when...
Yeah. And then like I basically was like I had no idea where I was going to start or what I was going to write about. So then I just decided to go all the way back, like as far as back as I could remember, and write about basically, this sounds so depressing, but it wasn't, I promise. Everything that happened in my life that hurt me, which honestly I recommend for people to do. It's obviously
You got to do the hard work.
Yeah. It's sad. It's
You do.
hard.
You have to dredge it
but
all
when
up.
you like get it out and you just let it hurt and you let it cry and you like sit in the emotion, it passes because every moment passes.
Yeah. Because that's where all the anxiety comes from. It comes from putting on a mask and pretending you're okay and hiding everything, and it takes a lot of energy, and you're always afraid somebody's going to find out, and that's one of the theories behind like the social mask. Causes anxiety. A lot of people with anxiety don't realize that's where their anxiety comes from.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Ugh.
You got to be authentic with yourself.
Yeah, and honest, like what actually hurts here? Like really, like what about this was so painful, you know?
Yeah.
And then cry it out, let it out, write
And
it out, whatever you
sing
gotta
it
do.
in front of everybody.
I thought it was
Maybe that.
incredible.
Oh, thank you.
I checked it out and I thought it was
Thanks.
like And I was thinking to myself as I was watching it that it must have been very therapeutic for you to go through that process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't know that's what I was going to do. It was just what ended up happening. But it was like actually such a beautiful process because I did get to like let out a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of emotion and just be like, okay. And by like for me to share it, it's about the other people on the other receiving end of it. Because when I say this happened to me and this hurt me, the point of that is to like touch the person at the back of the room who might be feeling the same way or who experienced the same thing, who's like, oh my gosh, that person felt that way.
You did that for me.
Yay!
Honestly,
I'm not alone. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the work. I don't care what I have to. I don't care. I'll say it all of the ways all the time because, when people share that, that's what connects us. The human experience. That's what brings people together and makes it below surface level.
There's something in our culture and society though that for a long time said don't share that piece of you.
Yeah.
Especially for men.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I some aspects I really dislike the world we live in as a parent. But in other aspects, when my son comes home and tells me something that's happened at school and I'm just blown away by his understanding of other people, I'm just like, whoa, I'm excited about the world we live in now too, because you can be so honest. He's got about 15 kids at school. He doesn't know if he should call them him, they, or she.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, it's nice you're thinking about that.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And just keep plugging away until you figure it out.
Yeah.
Or just ask.
Yeah, just ask.
Just ask what they want to be.
But that's just one piece of, Marcus is sensitive too.
Yeah, he is. And I'm sorry, but this makes me laugh because just talking about the progress of the world we're living in. I remember Marcus just turned 18 the other day, but when he was in grade 9 and we went for the tour at his school just to show how times have changed, and I'm not even that much old, I'm 34, right? But we went for a tour and...
Well, I don't know if we established that you were with his mother.
Yes, I was, I was with his mother.
Yes.
So
this changes the story.
This
does.
does...
We've said anything about that yet.
This definitely changes the story. So yes, his mother and myself and him went for a tour to his high school, and there was the Gay Straight Alliance, and I was like, what? You have a Gay Straight Alliance? My great Gay Straight Alliance was me with my best friend hanging out in the art room in high school. That was it. There was no Gay Straight Alliance. I didn't even know there was any gay people in my high school when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Probably the jock that was beating everybody up.
Right? But here you have this... I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is amazing because honestly, it was me in the art room.
There was one in my college. President of the school, when I went to Cambrian College, president of the school was openly gay, and and he was also the president of the club.
Yeah. But things have definitely come a long way. And yes, to answer
since
your
high
question,
school, but by the time I got to college, it was happening.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, right after that, I think, is when things started to come together. And to answer your question, yes, Marcus is very sensitive. He's a very sensitive person to people.
Yeah, they think about these things now, and I didn't have experience with that in high school with boys. Sensitivity on the level that I'm getting from Mateo now.
I feel like it was a lot of you don't talk about things,
your feelings.
Right? You don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about things and there it comes back to more about putting on that mask, right? And then that creates anxiety and issues
Pushes
later on.
it all down.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
About not having a vocabulary around my emotions or not knowing how to process them.
Yeah,
not
we
being
weren't taught.
Yeah. And again, it was innocent, right? They were just like, oh, don't cry, be happy. It wasn't, it wasn't malicious. It never was.
Social norms at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's talk about your involvement with the Willow art community. How did you get involved? What do you, what pieces and parts are you involved in?
Yeah.
And what do you take from it, by being involved?
Oh, I love the Willow. So a friend of mine went to high school with Shauna, the
the executive director, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like yeah. And so my friend took me to an event at a local cafe that Willow was doing something at, and like there was just a whole bunch of different parts to it. There were people who did improv, there were people who, like, there was visual art on the walls. There was just a whole bunch of different things. And I was like, what is this place? Like, there's a place for that for people who have lived experience with mental illness and substance use and who are artistic. Like,
I
hello,
think
sign me up.
the vision she had was that it's harder to break into the art industry for people like that. So she wanted to create a safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. So, I remember like putting a 20 in the jar because I was like, I want to support this. This is amazing. And then shortly after that, I became a member, and I have done a handful of workshops with them. Not like led them, like I was a participant. And the ones that are the most predominant are the songwriting ones that I've been part of. But I've done an improv one as well. I want to say there was another writing. Oh yeah, there's been a bunch. But yeah, it's just a great group of people and so supportive, and just like it's just a beautiful place. Like it's just a beautiful space to
and it's in
share.
Silver Spire Church.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah.
I was gonna just ask because I have never heard of this before. And this sounds like something I would really be interested
it's interesting how many people haven't heard of it. I'm surprised when somebody hasn't heard of it yet.
So can you explain a little bit more about what exactly it is?
Yeah, it's an arts and mental health nonprofit.
Okay.
Become a member. St. Catharines. Yeah, you become a member. Although I'm pretty sure at this time right now, membership is closed until they get more funding.
She needs admin funding. So if anybody's listening and they want to donate, you can donate to Shauna.
Yeah.
And help her get some more administrative help.
Yeah. I'm doing a little bit of admin for them right now too, just to like help her because they do need like actual funds as well for the programming, so they can keep programming and getting instructors.
It's a lot of grant writing, a lot of outreach.
Yeah.
Definitely something we need more of.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And so, there's like different seasons. So like the fall season, the winter season, whatever. And they'll offer different workshops. And then the members sign up or choose whichever ones they want to take. And then they take them and then they learn and they're all in community and it's beautiful stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She went online during COVID, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Things
so
are
it was
online.
still available. So you can look into it, and if you want to volunteer, even if you have a few extra hours, get in touch with Sam. Sounds like she's volunteering.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, so that sounds like it keeps your energy going and inspiration up for new projects.
Definitely, yeah.
And it looks like you do have a new project in the form of a new business.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about maybe your mission and goals of the business and how people can reach you?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay.
So my business is Sam Out Loud. And my primary offer at the moment is helping people in Niagara navigate the mental health system. So if they're like, oh, I need a therapist, but I have no idea how to start, or I'm overwhelmed and I think I need help, but I'm not really sure, and I don't know, Google's overwhelming. There's too many options. I don't know what to do. That's another, if you're like already diagnosed and on medication and like you're switching between medication and you like don't feel well and you just need a person to talk to, me. And if you are like in a therapy program and you're having a hard time keeping yourself accountable, maybe you have some homework, me. So it's for people who, it's not super limited at the moment. It's just for anyone who think they might need help, who already maybe has a diagnosis but just needs a bit of support, like human connection and support from a person who's been through the system and been through the things. So that's like my primary thing right now. So I take clients and I help them with whatever they need. We set goals together and I work with them for as long as they need, and then hook them up with programs and stuff, and then off they go.
Okay, so it's pretty wide open at this moment.
Because it's just a baby. Like this business is a newborn.
You'll figure out what works best and change and evolve as you go.
Exactly.
But people can book a 30-minute free consultation with you.
Yes.
And then what does it cost for your coaching services?
That is a great question. My rate per hour is $97.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but if you get in
heard
touch
it
with
here.
me, like, I might be able to. Depends on what your situation is too.
Okay.
Like, and it depends on how much the person needs. Like right now, because it's in it's oh my goodness,
Infancy.
yes, thank you. Like that's that for at the moment. But I'm likely going to start to build packages. I just haven't yet because it,
Yeah, it takes time.
it takes time. Yeah, and so that's one of the things that I do right now. As part of Sam Out Loud as well, I host a free sober questioning group on Tuesday nights. Where it's basically for anyone who may be questioning or changing their relationship to alcohol or other substance. It doesn't need to be specific to alcohol. It can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It can be smoking. It can be codependency. It can be overspending. It doesn't really matter what the thing is. It's just called Sober Questioning Group. And it's a place where we meet and talk about just kind of the questions that come up when we start to change our habits.
Okay.
And how to kind of stick with that. And yeah, it's just a place for people to go to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And do you have any partners or places that you go to refer people who might need a little bit of extra help, like AA or things like that?
Not like, I don't have like direct partnerships, but I have like a whole bunch of resources and stuff that, because some of them are self-directed, so I can't call on their behalf and get them in. They have to call, so it depends on the agency.
All right, so if you need some support, if you don't have the support in your life, you can reach out to Sam and she can be that person for you.
Yeah, and my Instagram is Sam Out Loud, and then my Facebook page is Sam Out Loud Official.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I? Once again, I'm just going to jump in here a little bit.
Please jump in.
And speak on this from the other side. Because, well, not really the other side, the same side. Just, I'm kind of back down the road from where you are. It sounds like you're further up the road, and
Sure.
I'm kind of following behind. I'll explain.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
As somebody who's currently trying to navigate the system, this service is so desperately needed, because while there's resources out there, the people, they're very difficult to access, the resources that are out there. They're difficult to access, they're difficult to navigate, they don't talk to each other, so there's not that what's the word I'm looking for?
Cohesivity. They're in silos a lot of the times, basically due to funding sometimes too,
Yeah,
or like job. You want to security.
The problem is when you're in the moment, like when you're somebody who's dealing with a mental health crisis,
you're anxious to call. You're anxious to reach out.
Just start.
Yeah.
And then you go and you try, and then they just give you a phone number to call, and then you gotta find it in yourself to make these phone calls,
and then they're like,
and then
this is
there's
the
another
wrong
number
space.
to call.
Yeah. You
and
need
then
to call
there's
this person.
And the best part is, and that's sarcasm for people who can't see my face, is that you're having a mental health crisis. Now you gotta wait 6 weeks. You gotta wait.
Yeah,
however many months.
The wait times are
you
too
want
long.
you want your medication. Well, you gotta wait 3 months to see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you gotta wait another 3 months for your change or your dosage. Everything takes time, and when you're in a mental health crisis, you don't have you don't have that time, and B, you don't have the capacity to deal with calling all these places and to navigate the systems the way that you need
It's
to.
true.
Yes.
It's true.
And I have been sorry to go on a tangent, but this is a very sensitive subject. I'm glad when I saw what you do, I was very happy, because
it's like serendipitous almost.
it really is, because I have struggled for a very, 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 very long time. And I'm somebody who can advocate for myself, and I struggle. So people who can't do that, there's a reason why we see what we see with addictions. There's a reason why we see what we see with mental illness and people struggling on the streets. And to go with what you're saying about your group, sober questioning.
It's like it's a step before the step.
When you're and I am there, I'll admit it, I am in the very, very early stages of dealing with substance abuse issues, and I'm in the stage where I have not made that step right? So there's a lot of questions that come up before you make that step. And the one that comes up for me is how bad does it have to be before you have to do something about it? And I think a group like this would really help to what's the word I'm looking for? Not confirm, but help you to discover maybe what kind of challenges you're having and to affirm how you're feeling.
Like to normalize
it and to help you navigate those early questions and feelings. Because it is hard.
Sometimes you need the step.
It's almost
step. You need an advocate and
you know what it is? It's how bad do I have to be to get help? If I'm not, say,
if you're not ready to say
I don't know how to dark to get on this, but if I'm not shooting up or every day, then does that mean that I'm not bad enough to where I need help? What the scale would be on that?
And so it's different for everybody.
There's so many questions that come up with that, and even recognizing that you have a problem is such a difficult process.
But if you're just curious,
exactly. If you're questioning, it's not as scary because you're not having to go there being like, this is what I am. This is the problem I have. Because before you get to that step, there's a road that you have to go down to discover that, and there's not a lot of resources to kind of hold your hand.
And then once you get there, the beds are full, and the shelters are full, and the programs are on
and then you get
wait lists.
Discouraged, and then you just want to go back to your old behaviors. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks.
Honestly, I think we definitely need more. There's not enough of it.
With lived experience as well.
Exactly, with lived experience. When I heard about, the fact that we have gone through a lot of similar things, just from, I've kind of checked out your stuff, and it made me feel really good about meeting you, because it's you're not alone, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't even know anybody else in my inner circle who has BPD to understand the way I think and feel.
Yeah, and those symptoms are all on a sliding scale as well.
Right.
So.
And it can be very lonely, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, everything that I'm doing is based on experience. It's just I didn't have that when I was bad, I didn't have that when I was questioning. I was just I don't care if I don't have a friggin' certificate that says that I can do this or not, because I've literally lived it.
So you know what is needed, and you have found out for yourself what is needed to get there.
Yeah.
But it's empathetic pathfinding.
Yes.
So even when I was doing my placement after we took that course, I was in a position where I was involved in a program briefly for a large organization that supports children in this area.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, these people have never, and I mean, that's presumptuous of me, but coming from my background and educational background as well, and just being these people have never had to deal with the stuff these children are dealing with. So how the heck? And I understand the book side too, because I am in my third year of a BA in psychology counseling. But the whole thing is I've been in social work and all of this stuff, but I also have the lived experience. And I find some of these workers, they've learned it in the 4.5 years or 4 years in university, and then their placement.
Right.
And then they're in these roles, and not all of them, I'm not saying all of them, but there were quite a few where I was just you have no real life experience, to the point where even in some situations I feel I was being passed over for jobs where I could have made a way bigger impact. And
there's some things that can't be taught. There's some things that literally you have to go through, I think, to really have that empathy and understanding.
Yeah, and being the receiver, if I were to go ask someone for help, I would want to get it from someone who already did it.
Yeah.
Not from someone who just learned it from a book.
And a lot of the things too, psychology, the recommendations and the way you conduct and the different types of therapies are changing. And you guys know, you talked a little bit about certain types of therapies you've been through, you as well, given me some insights into the different methods that you've used. However, everything's always changing. Opinions are changing. Studies come out with different takes all the time. So like the key for me, I see, is just like a combination of what I feel works for the individual.
And that's the complex part about mental health, I think, is that it has so many moving parts. Like you have your maybe one diagnosis or multiple diagnoses.
Oh, you get diagnosed with like something else, and then you get diagnosed with something else.
Yeah.
And then you have your treatments, and then you have your side effects from those treatments, and then you have any sort of maybe addiction issues that come along because of that, and then so now you're dealing with family doctors, psychiatrists, but then there's also you have to, like I said earlier, maybe you need to heal your inner child, or maybe you need to express yourself creatively through creative therapy, and like there's so many moving parts.
But they don't have to be just one.
No,
that's the whole point. It can
it
be
needs.
multiple things.
I really think it needs to be multiple
It does have
things
to be. That's
in
why
order
you'll
to
see
be
a lot of
successful.
wellness centers popping up where they have, somebody who specializes in this, and the other, and then you also have like a masseuse and yoga for trauma in the same building.
Yeah, and that's
because
what we need.
That's what we're finding out more and more.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things about being certified is you have to constantly stay updated.
Right.
So that's a good part of it. But there are updates. That's the point. There are always updates.
Well, if you look at even BPD and back, actually did a little research on it, left it at home, but regardless, it's up here in my brain.
You can describe it for us.
Yeah, I have like the list of the criteria because there's
there's a lot of symptoms.
Before it was even classified, right, as borderline personality disorder, it was looked at like, what was it? Emotionally unstable personality disorder.
Yeah.
And
on the border of neuroses and psychoses.
Yes, and also the way it's been portrayed in the media or through movies and stuff is almost like you're this narcissist.
Girl Interrupted.
Fatal Attraction is one of the worst portrayals of people with BPD, I think. It just emphasizes the negative aspects of it. But there's been so much research and evolution, I think, with understanding BPD.
Oh, for sure. It's been relabeled a couple times.
But it's been so misunderstood.
It's been
relabeled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been so misunderstood up until like more recently, where I know you've talked about dialectical behavior therapy. And in my experience as well, we know that you can't just take a medication and that be enough. That therapy
actually more favorable to do.
Therapy is your number
therapy,
one. Is your number one.
Yes.
And what people don't realize about therapy is like my therapy binder is like almost 2 inches thick from dialectical behavior therapy. It's a full course load.
It definitely is.
Because it's not just one thing.
No, and I to this day I'm still fighting so hard to learn those
Well, it's
skills.
like reframing thoughts, like
It
into
is.
more positive thinking of
creating-
yourself and what other people are thinking of you. Like the difference between two, and you could probably speak to this, Sam, is like the difference between like a mood disorder and a borderline personality is like a borderline personality person, they feel others are thinking badly of them. They're critical of themselves, but they're also always aware or think they're aware and know what other people are thinking, and it's very intrinsic.
A lot of it's about creating those new neural pathways and like retraining you literally are retraining the way your brain thinks in every way, shape, or form.
And like you mentioned that, Sam, too, that you disliked yourself for a long time, and that's a huge part of it. So you just have this intense dislike for yourself.
Yeah. Oh man.
You can't figure out why, right? But then when you start going to therapy, you start figuring out why.
I feel like now I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
You
was
just think
really
your
just like
worth is
hearing
low.
a story about who I was over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And believing
takes
it because
time.
what else? I didn't question, right? Like we
Yeah.
said before, we weren't raised to question. You just assume that that's it. And so, and I mean, again, these people weren't like doing it on purpose, I don't even know.
And then you create experiences that you want to avoid at any cost because you don't want to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You avoid a lot of things in your life that you don't go for things you want or you don't feel you're worthy of achieving them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, one of those fears of situations you want to avoid is being alone.
And people
Like
say,
fear
well,
of
just,
abandonment.
why do you think like that? Don't think like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating.
It's very hard for other people to understand what's going on in your head. It's not anxiety per se.
No.
Right? It appears sometimes as depression and anxiety, though.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But it's real thoughts to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know. There's a lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on. And then it manifests itself in these symptoms. So do you want to go over some of the symptoms?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll read them. Just because I feel like a lot of people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So I feel like reading it helps.
There's a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the symptoms you can't just, like, a lot of symptoms you can see, like, if you know a person and
you have to be very
you spend
close
time with them, you can see a lot of the symptoms. But there are so many that are just mental inside the person's head.
Yes. Yeah.
That never actually make that don't necessarily become visible to
or
anybody
even
around
in
you.
their
Even the
behavior,
closest
not
people.
even in their behavior.
That's
yeah,
right.
It's just like
Behavior as
so
well.
ingrained. It's just in there, and yeah.
Okay. So here we go.
So here we go. An intense fear of abandonment, even going to extreme measures to avoid real or imagined separation or rejection. A pattern of unstable, intense relationships, such as idealizing someone one moment and then suddenly believing the person doesn't care or is cruel. Rapid changes in self-identity and self-image that include shifting goals and values and seeing yourself as bad or as if you don't exist at all. Periods of stress-related paranoia and loss of contact with reality lasting from a few minutes to a few hours. Yeah, I didn't have that either.
That's not
Honestly, I'm
necessarily
shaking my head because
you experienced it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like
okay.
it's not like
So sorry.
schizophrenia. I mean, it sounds sort of like you know, like when you say that, but it's more like you've convinced yourself so much of these thoughts that they become true.
And in my experience,
stress-related paranoia. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or even if you have somebody who is, because you already question everything, and you have somebody who maybe has an opposing viewpoint to what you feel is real, and they're trying to
manipulate you,
gaslight, but not even necessarily in like on purpose way.
It's like that's not true.
Yeah. Or like, what do you mean? Like, that's the way you're feeling isn't real. Like, kind of giving that kind of
instead of
idea.
working with you because they don't understand. Yeah.
Because they don't understand, but then that makes you question it even more, and then that can put you into almost like
that's like
a paranoid spiral.
The appearance thing, right? You know, like I'm ugly. I don't value I don't think I'm appealing, right? And that can even if you're the most beautiful person in the world, that can become true. Like Marilyn Monroe had borderline personality disorder.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, when they look back at all the symptoms, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you just believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where that symptom is. It's like that. It's not delusional, but it kind of is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's your own reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. There's a few more.
Yeah, let's go.
Sorry.
No, we got
it's a long list.
Yeah, it's a long list, y'all.
It's a lot of fun.
Buckle in. Yeah. Impulsive and risky behavior such as gambling, reckless driving, unsafe sex, spending sprees, binge eating or drug abuse, or sabotaging success by suddenly quitting a good job or ending a positive relationship. Suicidal threats or behavior or self-injury, often in response to fear of separation or rejection. Wide mood swings lasting from a few hours to a few days, which can include intense happiness, irritability, shame, or anxiety.
And that's where it tends to look like
bipolar.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah. So it does look like mood disorders.
Like a whole bunch of things. Yeah. Ongoing feelings of emptiness and inappropriate, intense anger, such as frequently losing your temper, being sarcastic or bitter, or having physical fights.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be on the extreme spectrum. So it could be on the lower spectrum of all of those as well.
Yeah. You don't need to have all these like to the max for it to be true. Or
I think isn't it like 5 for a diagnosis?
Yes, it is.
So,
yeah.
Something like that. But
yeah.
Things like which I don't know if it was on the list or maybe the wording was just different, but like the idea of splitting.
Oh yeah, splitting. Yeah.
Splitting was, I don't know if it was on there, if it was worded different, but like that's one of those things that I think happens and a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that because I don't know about that. This is the first time hearing about splitting.
splitting was something that I didn't even realize I was doing until I was diagnosed. And that's the thing too with a diagnosis. I don't know if you can agree with me on this, but like people will say, what does it matter about labels? You know, why do you need to label everything? But the thing is, with, in this case, say with mental illness, or with, we'll say borderline personality disorder, if you don't have a title or a name to give something, you don't know how to treat that thing. Yeah. You don't know how to nurture it, how to fix it, or like how to live with it, right?
Yeah.
So once you have a name, and then you can understand what is going on, and there's a reason. There's finally a reason for what you've been living.
Yeah.
It's almost freeing in a way, right? Because it's like, now that I know what the issue is, and now that I see what is causing all of this. You can even
put your own label on it once you understand it, yeah.
I can do something about this
totally
now, right?
Yeah, there's so much power in knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, please explain about splitting.
Yeah. Splitting is a term used in psychiatry to describe the inability to hold opposing thoughts, feelings, or beliefs. So it's like black or white thinking, or all or nothing.
Yeah.
That's where you go into those low moments and those really high moments.
And that's where I think people with BPD often struggle with addiction, because when you're going from all or nothing, and a lot of people in this world can use substances in moderation. And I think this is why a lot of people also who have BPD struggle with eating disorders, because it's that all or nothing thinking. It's that all or nothing kind of way of living. It's like,
you can't stop
all of it.
Yeah.
However, I do want to say with addiction, it's a little different too, because I think as we talk about balance, I think with addiction, if you have an addiction, it isn't necessarily something you can balance.
It's
you know
hard.
What I mean? Like for a lot of people, I think it does come down to like the nothing. Like
it becomes chemical.
Yeah, you can't
totally.
You may need to cut out all of those substances. So I don't want to be, I might have worded it wrong when it comes to that, but like I think that need of wanting more kind of comes into play when speaking about addiction and BPD.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to like share something that I found in a very recent study about alcoholism. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Were you drinking alone, or were you drinking socially?
Good question. Yeah. None of my answers are ever a short answer.
That's okay. We need to watch time for you, but we're at 3:25.
That's okay.
Okay.
So my booze story goes as follows. I started drinking when I was like 15, socially with like friends, like 15, 16, on weekends, whatever. Not every weekend, just whenever. And then in college, it was like every weekend, and we were always going out and whatever. That was just like the way it was, and I didn't question it. And then, like, I could never stop at one, but I didn't think that was a problem at the time. Like now I have a whole different view on what was problematic and what wasn't. But anyway, so when it became problematic was like I had already been through, like I'd already gotten a diagnosis. Which was, my initial was OCD, depression, and generalized anxiety disorder with panic. Yeah, so I call it my Big Mac of problems. And then I was on meds for a few years, and I had been in therapy for a few years, and like I was still the same. Like it was the worst, right? It was so intolerable.
Yeah, and you were on medications.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I'm not anymore. I haven't been for a while. Maybe I should still be. It's a question. We don't really know, but yeah.
Well, they say with time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, with time, BPD can get better. Yeah,
you can go into recovery. They say.
Yeah.
Well, it does it goes back to all the little mini traumas, big traumas, situations, environments. Sure.
Yeah. So I started to, like, after those few years where I was like, I should feel better now. I still don't feel better. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, it became a way to get the hell out of my head. It became a way to get out of the stress, the distress, the being alone, the emotions. Like, and the thing that doesn't even make sense at all is, but it does to me, but it probably doesn't on the outside, is like I had a great job. I had a fiance, I still have him, my fiance. Like I had a support of my amazing theater people and art friends. I specify because art people are just really, really great. Not that art, honestly, I think everyone's an artist. That's a whole conversation for another day. I'm just
That's a conversation we can have another day for sure, yeah.
But anyway, like I had everything, quote unquote, but I was still so broken and I didn't know what the heck was wrong with me. And so I just...
You made yourself feel better.
It was so easy. It was so accessible. It was what everybody did. So I just like looked for any reason to go and have the drinks with the friends and the people. And then the other like big portion of it was just like me, at home in the evening.
By yourself?
Sometimes with my fiance. But he doesn't have a problem. Like we would just do it together because we were together. Like it wasn't
social.
Yeah, like, oh, I'll have a couple drinks. Yeah, sure, why not with dinner? Yeah. And then it would turn into
Carly looks like she wants to interject.
Yeah, anyway.
You're like speaking to me right now. So I'm just like over here like I need to ask a question because what you're saying just speaks to my situation so closely and alcohol for me was like a very similar situation. Like, I would drink with friends or social or whatever. But did you find when you talk about dealing with the distress, do you find for you BPD represents itself in a way that's very noisy in your mind? Like it's just constant, like not necessarily noise, but just like the thoughts, right? Like they're just almost overwhelming to a point where the alcohol kind of slows everything down or like masks it. Yeah, is probably a better word. Yeah. Yeah, because it's very hard to deal with that. I just want to call it noise.
I'm very familiar with the noise. How much the noise is a symptom of BPD and how much it's actually just my brain and our minds that just like talk and chatter and do what they're supposed to do, which is think all the time and assess risks.
Yeah, constantly assessing
right?
risks.
Like, which is what fear is for. That's
right.
what
PTSD,
it's for, right?
Yeah.
Like how much of it is BPD and how much of it is just my brain doing the thing it's supposed to do.
It would be interesting to look at the CAT scans or something like that.
But like I've learned to turn down the volume on both of these things
using your
in
coping
totally
skills.
Different ways.
Yeah. That you've learned through therapy.
A lot of it was therapy, A lot of it is I write every morning. I write every day. Like, just getting the gunk out, that has changed. Like, I've been writing every day for about 6-7 months. I'm a different person in that 7 months than I was before I started writing every day. And I wrote before. I would journal before, but not every day. Yeah. And just the amount of clutter and gunk that you just get to get out it just gets you so much closer to yourself.
Yeah.
Since you quit alcohol, do you find that like the writing has gotten you through like staying sober?
It's I don't know that it would how do I explain this?
It creates mindfulness. It creates being in the present.
Right.
Yeah.
And not worrying so much about the past and the future.
Yeah, it just, although, like, sometimes when you are writing, you're are thinking about
list.
The past, right? Or you're thinking about a lot of the time, it's like...
I write a lot of to-do lists. I'm, like, writing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, one.
Yeah. A lot of it is, like, it's just processing, really. So I don't know that it, like, necessarily was... It, like, kept me sober. I think I just decided. I was like, it just has to go. It just has to go. Like, every aspect of my life is suffering as a result of this thing. And we've tried to moderate. I tried to moderate for like 5 or 6 months. And I would still overdo it. And it was just like it. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I needed supports in place. I didn't just like, wake up and was like, okay, it's going to be great. No, it was like a rough time. And then my body was changing after that, right? Like
the chemicals.
All the chemicals start to
hormones,
recalibrate. And there's all kinds of fun things that happen. But
it's
it does
be different
help
for everybody. You're gonna find your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
For me, it's like anytime I need to work through something, like writing is great because I'm a good creative writer, but I tend to like write things and like hide them into stories. But the other thing I do is paint a lot. Right, so that's my expression.
I've always journaled as well. Like I have like probably a bin full of journals from the time I was 12, right?
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
interesting if you go back and you can see your progress, right?
Yeah.
Or just if you write a lot like you do, or like it's your story.
Yeah, when I look back at
Right?
my painting albums, I'm always like, whoa,
It's your
I forgot I
journey.
did that one and put it out there for everybody to see. Oops. Yeah, sometimes. You know what would be a really interesting installation is your journals, like just take certain pages out and make
Yeah,
something out
it
of
would
it.
be intense.
I think it would be
I have
really
this-
cool.
I have this idea for a show. I don't know if I should say it out loud because I might do
Maybe
it.
don't give it away. Maybe
Okay,
tell us
maybe.
afterwards
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you
Tell
know,
us your secret.
because
Okay,
people will
I
say I was thinking of that too, and then you know
Yeah.
next
Don't
thing you
let
know
the
somebody
people
else will
know.
get to it first.
Yeah.
You gotta
No,
save your
okay.
intellectual property.
Yes, that's true. You want to save it.
Yeah, so I do have one more question for you because I know you
Yeah,
have to
of
get to a
course.
dress fitting for your
Yes.
wedding dress.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, well, okay, don't tell us the project you were just thinking of.
Okay,
but
I won't.
if you could do your dream project as a musician, as a creative thinker, is it the same project?
No.
Okay, what would the dream project be?
Okay. The dream project is like a massive stage that is sold out, and I'm standing there, and I get to sing because I love singing. That's my like number one thing is singing, and also talk like about my experience, which is already. I mean, I kind of already have done it on a very small scale, but like where I get to literally move people's energy in this massive crowd. And lift them and inspire them and just I'm real with them. I'm just me, and that's like good enough, you know. And I get to like tell my story, share a bunch of insights, and sing songs and move people with music, and
how long
everyone's just
would
like,
this-
"Bah," you know.
How long is the show?
I don't know, like a concert length, I guess. However, I don't
However
know.
long it goes? Sounds like a TED Talk.
Where
It
do I
is a
get
TED Talk.
tickets?
It's a TED Talk
With
with
music.
music. That's the dream. I've been writing that down for like years.
I want
Like
tickets.
Okay.
Sign me up.
Yeah, we're like it's a like
it.
edutainment concert TED Talk.
It's a
yeah.
creative
That's amazing.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I would love to like be able to interact with people like in the audience. Like if people had a question, like have a period of like, or they like text it to whatever, and I get to like
It comes
answer.
up on the screen.
Yeah, and I get to answer a question like live and in color in real time. Like
That sounds awesome.
thanks.
It's a good vision.
Thank you.
Sounds like a combination of your passions, right?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
in one.
Yeah,
That's
I would
awesome.
love it. Like if it was a whole like show with a whole thing. And I feel like I already have the writing. Like I write every day. Like it's already in there somewhere, right? Yeah.
Have you taken any grant or proposal writing courses?
No, I haven't.
So that's the next step, in my opinion, to get that happening. And I think you can do it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't think it's too big of a stretch, especially with the performance halls we have around Niagara and the community of creatives that make things like that happen. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like it makes me buzzy inside.
Yeah.
And that's how I know it's right.
If you are struggling with borderline personality disorder or any of these symptoms, please reach out. We would love to refer you to resources in the community. If you'd like to reach out to Sam for her services, the link for her website and Facebook page is in the description. And if you would like to reach out to me with any questions, please email me at artbyrhiannonbarry@gmail.com. And if you'd like to know more about some of the services and opportunities that I provide, my website is www.bwhimsyartloft.ca, and whimsy is with an I. Okay, thank you and have a great day.